Good afternoon. Welcome to this short presentation on the Women, Peace and Security agenda and the question, what role do women play in peace and security, and why do women matter to national and international security? My name is Dr. Shirley Graham and I am the Director of the Gender Equality Initiative in International Affairs here at the Elliott School of International Affairs. And I run a program that has the largest number of courses at both graduate and undergraduate level that focus on gender equality issues in international affairs. So this is essentially just a flavor of some of the topics that we discuss in the classroom. So what is the Women, Peace and Security agenda? The Women, Peace and Security agenda is a series of 10 UN Security Council resolutions. The first one, Resolution 1325, was adopted in the year 2000. And the last resolution, 2493, was adopted in 2019. So these 10 Security Council resolutions together create a framework for both policy making and analysis on the role that women play in peace and security matters. Resolution 1325 was adopted in the year 2000, very much in the wake of high levels of media reporting of sexual and gender-based violence that women had undergone in conflicts in the 1990s. Specifically, the conflict in the former Yugoslavia in the Balkans, where upwards of 250,000 women were reported to have been raped during that conflict. And also during the genocide in Rwanda, where numbers such as 500,000 women were reported to have been raped during that particular conflict. So awareness was growing internationally that these forms of gender-based violence were impacting women and men differently. And so there was a call on the Security Council to consider women's own unique experiences of conflict and war, and particular vulnerabilities that are linked to gender norms, gender roles, and gender relationships within different contexts. So we know that we now have the data that very much supports this argument that where we have higher levels of gender equality, we have more secure, stable, and prosperous societies. Put simply, where women and men are equal or more equal in society, and where we have higher numbers of women in parliaments, for example, we have less war-prone countries. So this is key information for national and international security and our policy making on security issues. An example would be, for example, women involvement in peace negotiations and talking at the peace table. Even though we know that a peace process is 64% more likely to last and to be a success, and 35% more likely to last for 15 years or more, when women are present at the peace table, still only 13% of negotiators in the last 20 years have been women. And this is important data because the average peace agreement only lasts for 5 years. So what is the Women, Peace and Security agenda made up of? It's essentially made up of 4 key pillars. And those pillars are known as the 3 Ps and the 2 Rs. So participation, prevention, protection, relief, and rehabilitation. So participation calls on nation states to ensure that women are participating and given equal access to peace and security issues, that women are present in parliaments, in senior decision-making leadership roles across all sectors in society. And that not only are they present, but that their voices are being heard, that they're being equally included, and that they are representing different groups within society. Women are not a homogenous group. They come from different tribes, classes, races, ethnic groups, religious groups. And so the importance of including women that represent these very many different groups in society. And then when we talk about prevention, we're talking about more broadly the prevention of conflict in society and violence in society by putting in place processes, systems, programs that build gender equality and that really enable and support the flourishing of women and girls in society. But also looking at the role that women can play in prevention of conflict and bringing them into these formal and informal processes that ensure that their voices and experiences and needs are equally heard alongside those of men and all genders in society. And then protection. That's important because it focuses on the protection of the human rights of women and girls and the implementation of legal justice systems that ensure the rights of women and girls, but also the protection of women and girls during conflict from gender-based violence. And then relief and rehabilitation. So this is considering women and girls' human rights and humanitarian aid and relief, ensuring that women are equally able to access these resources and in leadership roles, designating who gets the resources and how they get those resources so that all members of the society have access to relief and rehabilitation resources and processes. So I've explained a little bit about the precursor to the resolution being adopted, 1325, that there are 10 resolutions in the Women, Peace and Security agenda, that they are focusing on these 4 key pillars, and that then each of these other resolutions build out particular indicators and call on national governments to take action in key areas. For example, creating their own national action plan on women, peace and security. Thus far, we have 83 countries with a national action plan on women, peace and security, setting out their goals and indicators that they have achieved those goals under those 4 pillars, and putting in place monitoring and evaluation processes and budgets. Now, this is not happening equally amongst different countries, and some are more transparent than others, and some have more robust plans than others and evaluation processes than others. But this is a step, and this is an important policy-making step and programmatic step towards creating gender equality and raising awareness of the Women, Peace and Security agenda. If you want to look at some data that very much sets out this correlation between gender equality and more peaceful, less war-prone countries and societies, I would recommend you Google the Women, Peace and Security Index that was published in 2019. That index looks at certain indices that show clearly these correlations and therefore can create a scale of countries that are more gender equal and those that are more unequal. In the index, it highlights inclusion, security, and justice as three key areas that it examines in relation to gender equality in 167 countries globally. And when they talked about inclusion, they were including things like women's access to parliament, are there gender quotas in place, women's access to bank accounts and loans and finance, women's access to the paid labour market outside the home, women and girls' access to education equal with men and boys, women's access to cell phones. So these are some of the key areas that they were examining. When it comes to justice, they were examining discrimination under the law. For example, can women inherit land and property equal to men and boys? Can they pass on their citizenship to their children if, for example, they're married to or partnered with a man from a different nationality? And does the legal system in other ways discriminate against women? Does it have, for example, laws to end and mitigate violence against women, such as domestic violence and intimate partner violence? We know that globally, 1 in 3 women will experience intimate partner violence in her lifetime. So what legal systems are in place to end impunity? And what are the discriminatory norms in terms of the culture more broadly? Can women set up their own businesses? Are they able to move freely outside the home without a male companion? And is there a bias in favor of sons? So they're the questions under justice. And then within the security section of the index, they consider the family, the community, and society. Are women and girls safe in their home? Can they walk freely in their community without being harassed, for example? And is their society more broadly safe? Or are there high levels of gun violence, gangs, or various crimes that make it unsafe for women and girls to be in that community? And what this index shows us is that countries such as Norway, Finland, Iceland, Denmark, which have very high levels of equality in relation to girls being able to access education equal boys, parliamentary quotas that ensure there are high levels of women in parliaments, so gender quotas, that they have access to maternity and paternity leave, and that access to finance institutions, bank accounts, cell phones is very much the norm. And very importantly, that the majority of men agree with the statement that women should be able to work outside the home. And then when you look at countries that are at the bottom of this index, countries such as Yemen, Pakistan, Syria, South Sudan, Afghanistan, they have lower levels across these various indices of women being able to access, for example, cell phones, or numbers of women in parliament, or equal access to education or paid labor outside the home. And so where does that bring us to? Well, I only have enough time to give you a very, very brief snapshot. But if we come back to the United States of America, I can tell you that the US was the first country in the world to enact the Women, Peace and Security agenda into its national law. And what that means is that it has tasked 4 government departments: Homeland Security, Department of Defense, USAID, and State Department, with developing a security strategy that weaves women, peace, and security into their security strategies. And from that strategic plan, to develop a series of implementation plans that work with women and girls in countries across the globe and through partner governments and agencies. So essentially what the Women, Peace and Security Act of 2017 is saying that women are key partners as agents of change in society to bring about the end of conflict and the building of peace and the sustaining of more peaceful, stable, and prosperous societies. So this is good news. We haven't yet got the implementation plans. They were meant to be ready last fall, 2019, and they're still in progress. We are obviously hoping that they will be rolled out sooner rather than later. But suffice to say, this is an important step forward in developing a global conversation about the importance of women's inclusion in all aspects of peace and security. If you're interested in this topic, please check out our webpage. So it's GEIA, G-E-I-A, the Gender Equality Initiative in International Affairs at the Elliott School. And you can see information about all of our courses. We have 10 courses at graduate level and 8 courses at undergraduate level that focus on different aspects of gender, international affairs, gender and development, gender and security. So please do take a look at those courses and feel free to email me if you have a specific question. My email is shirleygraham@gwu.edu. Thank you for taking the time to listen to the short presentation. I look forward to seeing you in the classroom in the near future.